2. Welcome to the Friendly Geordies podcast. How are we doing, guys?
Bully.
A lot has happened since our last week.
What? What has happened?
There's a ceasefire, at least for now, in Gaza.
Saw that, yeah.
Trump
Slow news week, eh?
is now the president of the United States, and
Why wasn't I
Elon Musk
informed?
is looking to be the chancellor of Germany.
Oh, yeah.
We've got
Oh,
all
yeah, that's
the
right.
topics.
Yeah, finally.
We've got all the topics. So let's
Some leadership.
start with the inauguration. How are we feeling about this?
Terrified.
I've been keeping abreast of it and funny and scared for sure.
It's funny.
Well, yeah, it's funny that he wants to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
What I'm going to do is, if you guys didn't watch the inauguration
No,
speech,
I didn't watch it.
I've written down some of the key.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
write
yeah.
down all the
Fill us-
rhetoric,
fill us
but I
in.
wrote down some of the key policy things that he was going to talk about. So one of the things he said, there's going to be a national emergency at the southern border. So all illegal entry will be halted. We'll begin the process of
gone.
returning millions of aliens back.
Aliens. Thanks for using the right
We will
terminology.
reinstate my remain in Mexico policy,
Right,
and will end the catch and release.
right,
And I will send troops to southern border to repel the disastrous invasion.
right.
Under the orders I signed today, we will also be designating cartels as foreign terrorists and invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1799 and 1798.
Look, out of all of that, pretty on board with the cartels.
I mean,
I am
I
on
don't
board
mind
with the
that.
cartels, but if I'm an American, I've got to think of something. And we can talk about this further.
Where'd my coke coming from?
No, not that, dude. It
gonna
relates to
come.
the Gulf of Mexico stuff. I understand that the cartels are, but like you can, if you designate cartels as terrorists, you can essentially bypass the Congress and wage war against Mexico if you wanted to.
What?
Well, I
What do you-
think that he's already strongly signaled that that's what he wants to do.
Wait. Why? For making terrorists?
Because terrorism, again, international security terrorism is such a threat that like the president can essentially go to war
Jesus.
under the perceived threat. But if
my
it's just
God.
like criminal gangsters or whatever,
Yeah.
you have to go through Congress. So it's just something to think about. It's not my issue.
Look, when the Republicans hold the House and the Senate, does it really matter if they get the House and the Senate's right off on it anyway?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And if I'm going to give Mexicans the same advice that I gave Ukrainians before,
Which is?
which is when you've got a beast living next to you, put your head down and say, yes, sir.
Dang.
Just believe me, this is good advice.
Be very Korean about it.
Just understand that that's how it works. You don't want the elephant to crush you because it will crush you because it just can.
Yeah. Look, I honestly think that doing something about cartels has proven to be effective when there was South American governments that started to clamp down on it. Now, I don't know anything else about them, and I know that there was a bunch of human rights violations as a result of that.
Right.
But man, cartels are really scary.
They are hectic.
Cartels are really. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
how
man.
is what they do not endless human rights violations?
Absolutely, it is. There's no doubt
Animals.
Yeah.
Truly animals.
Okay,
I'll
so
pay that.
we'll go on from that. So the next thing was national energy emergency.
Oh, no.
Drill,
here we
baby,
go.
drill. So no other So he says there's no.
How is there an emergency? What? We're running out of power, are we?
Listen-
Halfway through the inauguration, there was a blackout.
He says.
Yeah, give us the... I don't know what he said.
He says no other manufacturing nation will ever have the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it. We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again, right to the top, export American energy all over the world. We will be a rich nation again, and it's that liquid gold under our feet that will help us do it. And as a side note,
So
end Green New
scary.
Deal and revoke electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry. So he's
I mean, we're all expecting
he's
it.
essentially saying, which I mean, look, man, I am going to say this: a U.S. manufacturer needs all the help that it can. So, in his view, if energy, and they can make energy really cheap now, produce energy really cheap, and they're saying that will give us like he's I think thinking
The
that will give
competitive edge.
the comparative advantage for manufacturing. I don't think it's enough, but it's something that definitely has some level of potential. Having said that, dude, the climate's just he's scrapping the Green New Deal. So what he's also saying, the Green New Deal scrap was essentially Biden had asked automakers to slowly make engines more efficient prioritize electric vehicles, and if you do come up with combustion vehicles, make sure their emissions are really low, and you have to phase it out after a certain period. Trump said you don't got to do anything. Start making Hummers again if you want to.
Fuck.
Now that's making America great.
How does Elon Musk feel about that?
Awesome problem.
Awesome, dude. I don't know what Elon Musk thinks. We'll get to Elon Musk as well.
Christ.
So there's that. That is all bad news. Tariffs.
I'll tell you what, though. Let's talk about this, though. Let's be quite level-headed about this.
Let me be clear.
Let me be clear.
Let's be clear.
I still remain confident that the United States' general carbon emissions trajectory will continue to go down. I think that it's too late. There's too much private investment in renewables. There's too much private investment in... What?
I'm like...
Why did you have to interrupt his chain of thought, miss?
Sorry. Here, let me...
Nah, that was enough.
No, I'm not...
Honestly, I just think that that's the case. Yes, it would be unbelievably helpful if the greatest and largest economy on Earth took climate change remotely seriously and wasn't pumping as much gas and oil as they possibly could. However, as we saw in the Australian experience, we had a government that, let's be honest, did exactly the same thing, except for not go out of Paris. But they were doing that. And regardless, renewables kept entering the market. And electric cars kept entering the market. And obviously they're going at a cracking pace now that we have a different government in, but they still were going down. And I think that there was the defensive policy put in place with Biden's green energy initiative, like there was with Obama's, where they have just tied a bunch of investment into renewables that is already seeded out. And so to revoke all of that, first off, would be a very stupid idea because it was mostly targeted at Republican seats for that very reason. And so there are a bunch of Republican congressmen saying, I can't say no to all that investment.
Right.
So there's that. And then the other thing is that it's already, the contracts are signed. So I remain confident that it'll be like the first term of Trump where emissions did go down. They just didn't go down anywhere near as much as they should have. But it doesn't matter as long as we got that graph going that way. That's 2050 is the goal here.
And the other thing is, luckily, not every country has liquid gold underneath its feet, and whatever country doesn't have it is heavily incentivized to move away from combustion engines anyways.
Yep.
Keeping aside climate change, it just makes more economic sense for them. If they can somehow make their grid indigenous by producing renewables, they don't want the oil. Like, why do you want to depend on a different country that can cut it off anytime? Also, it's really expensive. And as a side note, is destroying the environment and just polluting your cities too.
And also, POV nations still want the renewables.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cheaper.
Exactly. And that's where most of the auto... So, yeah.
And let's be honest, as I think it was Richard Marles said when Australia, they was just like, are you scared that Donald Trump is going to cut all funding to renewables and move to gas? And he said, absolutely not. That just frees up trillions of dollars of investment that was going into America to the rest of the world.
Right.
Bring it here. We're open for business.
For sure, for sure.
So that's cool.
That's a really good point, actually. I didn't think about that because the U.S. was our biggest competitor when it came to things like that.
Yeah, and now we are getting a competitive advantage in this.
We might be able
We're back in business.
Let's hope we don't screw it
Yeah,
up.
but we'll elect Dutton. But the point is, something that I did think about a lot, and it was linked to this Mexico debacle that he was talking about. We gotta call it the Gulf of America. Don't you think that sounds better, folks? I think it sounds better.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I was going to bring that up a bit later in foreign policy.
This is my overall point of it. The Mexican president, I can't remember what her name is, but I'm very excited about the Mexican government. I looked into them. It's cool. I really feel like the Mexican government is doing what Lula was doing in Brazil, where they kind of just moved them from a third world country to a second world country.
Well, okay,
I think that's what's happening.
Let's get into that because I wanted to talk about that in particular. Let me tell you what exactly Mexico is doing from my understanding.
Okay.
So Mexico, again, is one of the biggest beneficiaries of NAFTA. Obviously, it's become almost the entire manufacturing hub for the state of Texas, but largely for many parts of America as well. And so if you look at Mexico, the problem is that Mexico has... all of the affluence that has come from these trade has come to North Mexico, right? So if you look at the states that border the U.S. southern border, those have like per capita GDP that is comparable to some of the countries in Europe, like not Western Europe, but like Central and Eastern Europe. So like saying that about $45,000 a year per person, that's pretty damn good. But if you go like a few Ks down towards Central and Southern Mexico, you get to like third world poverty again. So what Mexico is trying to do is like they're trying to bring investment into Southern Mexico and Central Mexico. And the reason that they're being successful in this is because with Trump's new tariffs and everything, what other countries are trying to do is to avoid those tariffs, build in Mexico so they can make a made in Mexico label and avoid the tariffs in general. And the countries that are investing the most amount of money in Southern Mexico is China. So China is trying to essentially create factories for BYD electric vehicles in Mexico, and they're incentivizing the Mexican government by saying, we'll do all of this in Southern Mexico where you really need it. We're bringing in Mexico is probably getting the highest foreign direct investment anywhere in the world right now because of this. And what Trump is saying to Mexico is, no, like we own all of your country. You don't get to get Chinese in to build you canals and get you to set up factories. Essentially telling them if you don't get your act together, which is what you're talking about, acting more like Lula, I will annex the Gulf of Mexico from you. It's going to be the Gulf of America. It's a big threat to them.
Yeah, of course.
And this is why I'm saying, if my advice to Mexico is, it makes absolute economic sense for you to get the funding from China. Otherwise, there is no way you can develop Southern Mexico the way you want to.
What was Biden's...
But if you do it, your country will be wrecked. Because America will not tolerate massive Chinese investments in Mexico so close to its border. I'm telling you, it is a recipe for disaster. As much as I hate American imperialism, just like I had said this about Ukraine, please put your head down and accept the shitty deal. It will be in your favor. Otherwise, you will become like Cuba. Straight up.
Right.
Straight up. Look at Cuba. It tried to do what Mexico... Right now, Mexico is I think they're smart enough not to fall for it, but they just need to be aware of this because it's...
Was Biden okay with China doing that?
Biden was obviously more okay with China doing that because Biden wasn't big on tariffs anyways.
Yeah.
So other countries didn't need to invest in Mexico.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. It's a straight up threat, and one should take it seriously. And by the way, so should Greenland. We're moving from the unipolar moment again to emerging powers, where there's great power competition, and the U.S. will not. If you believe. Some obviously believe the U.S. was never the nice guy. But if you think that the U.S. was a nice guy in the last 50 years, that is definitely going to decrease exponentially in the next 50 years. Whether it be Trump or anyone else. It's going to strong-arm countries. And you don't want to mess with the U.S. if you live that close to it.
Now, how much do you think that this is Trump's hot air?
No, it's not Trump's hot air because that's the long-term trajectory. That's why I'm saying it doesn't even matter if Trump is the president.
No, I know that. But him saying... make it the Gulf of America.
That's what he is using that as a threat. He is trying to tell them that if you don't agree to what I say,
I know, but
I'm going to seize you.
Do you think that the threat he'll follow through on?
Maybe not in his presidency, but it can happen. If Mexico decides to go Hugo Chavez or Fidel Castro way,
they did that.
Well, and that's what he's saying. He wants to take... And Panama has the same issue. The Panama Canal is being heavily invested by the Chinese, and the U.S. wants ownership again. I am telling you, just like how Russia wouldn't tolerate this sort of stuff in Ukraine, just as how China wouldn't tolerate this sort of stuff in Tibet and Uyghur areas, U.S. will definitely not tolerate this in Mexico or anywhere in the Western Hemisphere. Straight up.
Honestly, I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out. I'd like to see.
Don't try to be Lindsey Graham with Ukraine. Just because you think it's an intellectual exercise that will be fun, you're going to condemn an entire population, just like Ukraine.
No, I'm well aware of that. I am wondering if America still has the strength to do what they were doing in the 80s.
Absolutely. In Mexico, they 100%.
Yeah, you're right.
In Taiwan, you could make an argument, maybe not. But in Mexico, they reign supreme. Anyone that is telling you that U.S. can be challenged in the Gulf of Mexico or anywhere in the Western Hemisphere is fooling you.
Yeah, it's true. You're right.
They just... all right, so let's talk about... There's tariffs. We've talked about the tariffs a little bit. So what Trump wants to do is establish a competitor to ERS, External Revenue System, that will essentially collect tariffs and duties and supposedly, get rid of American debt. This, so you kind of already know. He's saying like he's going to put about 10 or 20% tariff on Mexico and Canada. Mexico is the largest exporter to the U.S., and Canada is also up there. So this is going to affect them. And then he wants to put a 40% tariff on Chinese goods.
Jesus.
So this will be...
Is it true that...
Man, I hope to God he does that.
Why?
Because that'll wreck him.
Who?
That will absolutely wreck the economy.
In the long term, yes.
America's...
In the short term, no.
Why?
People are claiming that the tariffs do bring in money.
I know that they're going to bring in money, but you know what they're not going to bring in? Goods. Everything is going to go up. The goods that they are producing are not going to be adequate. The goods that they are producing are not going to be enough.
No, they'll just
will ride.
They'll just be slightly more expensive, and then there'll be other competitors.
Dude, a 40% tariff does not make things slightly more expensive.
No, I know, but like then they'll move to the alternatives. I'm just saying, like in the long term, there's issues with this policy because what I think Trump doesn't realize is that all of that money that other countries make by selling to the U.S. market at a cheaper rate actually gets recycled into the U.S. economy anyways. So whatever money, let's say, Japan makes by selling Toyotas and whatever to the U.S., the profits of that eventually come back into Wall Street. And this is like a setup that's existed since the 70s, essentially. And so on one hand, if Trump, in the short term, what that's going to do is increase the tariffs that obviously the government is collecting. Things will become more expensive for the public. Some might find alternatives from different countries. Maybe they can find something from Vietnam, or maybe they can find something from Mexico. And for some things, you won't be able to, which means that the Chinese goods will just become expensive. So things will get a little bit more expensive, but the government will make some buffer funds through these tariffs. Long term, this is going to wreck the American economy. Because I don't think it's going to bring back manufacturing.
Again, man, I kind of do remain confident that the Chinese goods are not going to be cheaply replaced. You're right. There is going to be things that they are absolutely going to be able to replace, right?
Yeah,
like textiles and shit like that.
Yeah.
But like Walmart will go under, right?
Think about all the shit in Walmart.
So much cheap
they're
shit.
not going to be able to replace all of that. They're not.
Well, I don't know if... Yeah, it'll be expensive.
I just don't think that Vietnam or Mexico has the infrastructure streamlined like China does.
Yeah, or India. Mexico, I think, can...
Again, they're punishing Mexico as well.
Yeah, they're also... He's
an idiot.
Taking away... I think his thing is, like, that it's time to show the world that the U.S. can, flex.
But this is also so stupid because... I've been thinking about that a lot recently. The world moved away from tariffs unilaterally for a reason.
Well, look, this is a very different debate. And the reason was not necessarily based on very solid economics, if I'm being honest with you.
All right, here we go. No wonder he wants to go back to the Socialist Party.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, everyone, just in case you don't know, you can sign up to the Up Late where he admits, fact, expose, Ali wants to go to the Socialist United Party to discuss what that awful Trump is going to do.
I'm just
and Miss Love's going.
That
so we will have a field report of it. But if you want to know the full details of the pre-game, sign up to the Up Late.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm going to an economic discussion, but I just don't think like this free trade and like this neoliberal economics necessarily was that great. Well, that's a whole different discussion. Okay, moving for tariff.
All right. Let me just say this. It made Australia great, and not again, just for the first time.
What do you mean? Cutting tariffs?
Getting rid of tariffs.
Oh.
Getting rid of tariffs. I'll tell you exactly what it did in Australia, and I'm imagining that it did this to a lot of the developed world. I'm imagining that tariffs had exactly the same experience in a lot of countries. Again, I don't know. I can't talk of the experience of Luxembourg, but the
why not?
Definitely what happened in Australia when they got rid of tariffs was before that you had a really, really protected crony corporate structure that was making absolute shit, and all of it sucked, and no one wanted to buy our crappy towels and cars.
Right.
And then you got rid of them, and then you got rid of these businesses that were just getting fat off a captive market. And then people realise, Asian cars are way better and they're way cheaper.
Hey, Holden was fine.
Then,
Holden was fine and dandy.
It
really wasn't though.
It wasn't
Have
fine.
you ever
on.
seen a 70s Holden car?
Holden Commodore
I've
is
seen
a
them
weapon.
when they're driving, and then for no reason, it's like the Simpsons thing. It goes, and like the bonnet goes on fire.
Holden Commodore was a bloody
Jordan, what
grade
you're
A
saying is
car.
100% right. So just the distinction is if you have a big domestic consumer market, tariffs are sometimes can work in your benefit. If you are like a country like Australia, which has like, barely a consumer market, it's like 20
A city's worth of
at the
pizza.
time that you're talking about, it was like less than 15 million people that were logistically so far away that the market didn't matter to us. So a country like Singapore, for example, would hate tariffs because why would you? So, but for countries that have a big consumer base, countries like the US, countries like,
India,
for example, China, countries like India, then for them it makes less of sense to get rid of tariffs because they're just like getting rid of,
I can totally see that happening actually. Yeah, and also I would also probably see how it wouldn't make sense to get rid of trade tariffs if you're a developing country. If you're a developing country, you want as much of, like, because no one's investing in you anyway. You just want as much money staying in the country as possible.
Right, yeah, okay.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, unless you figure out how to make good stuff, in which case you would hate tariffs.
You're
in
not
that
going to be
case,
doing that.
okay, race relations and gender. So I will also send the government policy of trying. I will end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will be henceforth be the official policy of the United States that the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Dang.
Just as a side note, when he said this,
pros and cons.
when he said this, there'll be two genders, male and female. It got the loudest cheer, the longest standing ovation, and the most amounts of claps.
Shit.
Just
It
funny
really
and
just
depressing
shows
at the
how
same time.
dumb the people are that voted him in. This is why they were voting for him, for him to make a policy that is going to have no real world impact.
Well, look,
It's
man.
just him saying
if
there's
someone,
only two genders, and they pretty much voted for that guy just because he said that.
Yeah, but-
Tariffs doesn't mean anything to them. Climate change. This is all polite claps waiting for him. This is all the encore.
But his point about like we will forge a society that is colorblind and merit based. If you told me as an immigrant that the society I'm going into is colorblind and merit based, I'm taking that deal, dude. I love that. Compared to, for example, like, special quotas and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
At the end of the day, people want not to be discriminated based on race and to be judged on their merit. I think most reasonable people do feel that way.
But yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think that that's really as big of an issue that they're talking about unless you wanted to be a star in a Disney film. Really?
It seems like a contradiction
Fair
too,
point.
because he's obviously like. There's obviously, you could argue there's people that have gotten a lot of the positions in his cabinet by pure, it's not merit. It's like.
Yeah. Now, to announce my new Secretary of State, Donald Jr.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He's the best man. He went through the whole job.
That's what I mean.
He's
It's
the
just
best man
like
for
we're
the job.
merit based.
Very smart man. I know him personally.
Like, I think there's probably.
Obviously, that's not going to be followed, but,
Fuck, Donald Jr. sucks.
COVID, he will reinstate service members who were unjustly expelled from the military for objecting to the COVID vaccine mandate with
More common
full
shit.
back pay.
Far out.
Dang.
I will sign an order to stop our warriors from being subjected to radical political theories and social experiments while on duty.
I don't know what that means. Sounds like it's more exaggerated faff.
And then I think the foreign policy we've talked about, making Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, and the Panama Canal.
What is the Panama Canal? What is that?
Panama
It's the
Canal
canal
is
in Panama.
Well, where's Panama, damn it?
it's
just below.
below Mexico, and so it goes from it hits the Atlantic Ocean, connects Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean.
Right.
So you get a lot of traffic coming in that wants to go to the U.S. So
Yeah.
you don't have to go all the way
And what,
down.
they weren't utilizing that before? America?
No, America was, but like I said, Chinese investment. China is utilizing a lot more of it, and America fears that they're losing
right.
control of the canal itself.
Right.
So they want basically Chinese out.
Right.
including Chinese private investment. Obviously, if there were warplanes, we would already be in a war.
And obviously, because
Look, honestly, really, I wouldn't even mind them bullying around Panama and Mexico if they kind of just stopped encircling China and stopping it from trading.
I was going to say, well, obviously, because he's a populist, he will be pulling out all the American bases in the South China Sea then too, right?
Yes. Because he cares about nationalism, you see. Honestly, it's going to be a very scary 4 years, isn't it? Because I do believe the scare campaign thing of the Democrats, where it was the first time he was extremely disorganized, and we can all thank Lucky Stars for that, because it was just a wasted 4 years with a clown at the front and was funny. But this time I think it's going to be a clown at the front that was funny with an extremely organized, Koch brother-backed infrastructure destroying the government.
Jordan, okay, I know what you're saying, and I feel you, dude. I understand you. But let's talk about Gaza, because, dude, Trump presidency really benefited that whole equation.
Really? I mean, but there's a ceasefire, right?
There was a ceasefire, which was essentially Trump. There was always this conjecture, like, which Trump is going to show up? Is it going to be the Trump that says, Biden is holding Netanyahu back, I want him to go there and do some shooting and blasting? And then the same Trump was like, to Arab Americans, just being like, I'm the candidate of peace, I'm going to end all the warfare. And so the jury was kind of out in which Trump is going to show up. And it seems like the Trump that was the peace candidate showed up. Because what he said was like, obviously I don't know what happened, but it would have gone something like this. Benjamin Netanyahu, I like you, but you know what? You were bullying Biden this whole time. I want to tell you, that's not going to work on me. So this is what's going to happen.
Right.
You're going to agree to this ceasefire deal. Because the ceasefire deal isn't new. It's the same one that Biden negotiated. He just told Netanyahu, do it, or else I'll just move
Why didn't
support.
he wait until he was inaugurated if it was him?
Well, he told Benjamin Netanyahu that he wants him to do the ceasefire before he's inaugurated.
I wonder why.
Well,
because he wanted to,
he essentially wanted to set the boundaries with Netanyahu straight away, which is that you can't
Wouldn't
bully
you just
him.
do that as a day one test?
no, but Biden did it.
That's what I'm
No,
saying.
dude, Biden couldn't fucking do anything.
I thought Biden organized
Biden's
it.
legacy on like this whole thing will be pretty bad. I know,
but
Jordan,
wait,
you like
but-
him, but like he's gonna
But I thought-
he's gonna be remembered as like one of the shittest presidents. And dude, just before, you know what he did while he was at the inauguration?
What?
He pardoned every member of his family preemptively.
Right.
His extended family, just every one of his family. That's
Day one.
crazy.
And also on top of that, at least they can't use the you pardon Hunter Biden.
Why?
Can't use that anymore.
Well, he pardoned everyone. It doesn't make it any better, bro. I'm just saying it's.
But wait a sec. Biden said that he organized the ceasefire, and then when some journalist was like, "Was this Trump or you?" He was like, "Is that a joke?"
No, he did organize a ceasefire, but Netanyahu never agreed to it. Hamas had agreed to it at one point, and then we came close to a ceasefire maybe like 6-7 months ago. I want to say in the month of May.
I thought there was a ceasefire now.
No, there is a ceasefire now, miss, but there was supposed to be a ceasefire even before,
Yeah.
which is exactly the same ceasefire as now.
Yeah, but it was
except
Biden.
that Netanyahu didn't agree to it then
Yeah.
and agreed to it now.
Yeah.
And I think part of it isn't just because, Jordan, if you want the nuance of it, it's not just that Trump is more badass than Biden. I think from Netanyahu's calculus, it was like he couldn't alienate both sides of the political spectrum in the U.S. because without the U.S., he's screwed. So when he knows that he's sort of like alienated one side, which is through Biden, he's going to have to just agree to what Trump says at this point.
I still don't understand why he didn't want it post-inauguration.
Yeah,
Seems very strange to me.
Who, Biden?
No, Trump.
it's like a thing. Reagan did that with the Iranian captives as well. It's always like,
He wanted
just
a
as I'm being
post-inauguration.
inaugurated. Like that is like part of like how boss I am.
I'm still misunderstanding. I thought, Biden more or less organized the ceasefire. It had nothing to do with Trump. So obviously he would announce it before Trump got in to be like, this is because of me, not Trump.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, it's not because of him. It's actually because of Trump.
Really?
And credit where credit is due.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think that.
It's the Biden peace plan.
Yeah.
But it was, but Israel was made to implement it through Trump.
Biden was there, right?
Sure. Yeah.
No, I mean at inauguration day.
Oh yeah, he was. And he autopiloted all his pardons to his family.
I'm sorry, I know I sound like a massive boomer when I say this, but
Did you call him?
I missed the normalcy.
Did you call him?
Yeah.
Did you call him?
And he did.
Yeah, he was there.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Biden did. Trump didn't.
Trump, it was funny. Trump was, as soon as he sat in the Oval Office, the reporters are around him and he's just like talking shit. And he's like, one reporter asked him, "Did you get a letter from Biden?" He's like, "Letter? I don't know. Maybe I got it. Let's have a look." Yeah, it's usually in this door. He opens the door and there's a letter there. It's like, he's like, "Oh my God, there is. Thank you very much. Who knows when I would have found it? It could have been months." And he's like, "Should we read it out loud? Should we all read it?"
My God.
And the reporters are like, "Yes, yes." And I'm sure someone from the background was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, maybe I'll read it first just by myself and then I'll see if I want to read it out loud. I'm going to do this later."
Oh my God. Who wants to read
Classic
it?
showman.
No. Yeah. me. No. That's fucking crazy.
Should we read it now?
He's such he's a bloody comedian, isn't he?
And he didn't leave a letter for Biden in the.
Apparently he did, because he said, he's like, "I left one for him too, just so you know."
Really?
Yeah, he says that he did.
Probably didn't. He probably left him some fake
You
cufflinks.
are a con man. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Worst president ever.
I'm calling it in advance. That's right. We all know you're going to be terrible. You know it yourself the most, frankly. It's quite disgraceful that you really run against me. It just keeps going like that.
Fuck. A lot of
Where's
spelling
Don't get rid of
errors.
my Pepsi button.
Where's my lunch? Oh.
Okay, so let's talk about what the impact of this on Australia. So Penny Wong, let's talk about Albo first. So Albo was asked, tariffs, how will this affect Australia? And for Australians, I want you to know, you know how Trump says that the whole world treats us like suckers, they're taking advantage of us, there's a massive trade imbalance between us. We're the suckers that get sucked by the suckers. We actually have a negative trade balance with the US. So the
Right.
tariffs don't make any sense for us. We're giving them more money already. So
Right.
the tariffs won't affect us as much. And Albo claims that Trump has said that Australia is fine. I'm not
Okay.
going to pursue any, but this all can change. Penny Wong was asked, what do you think about this transactional approach that the US president has? And she was saying that US is our biggest partner, blah, blah, blah. But we should also be realistic about what this means and how we'd have to adjust to certain things. Whatever.
I mean,
what does that mean?
Aren't most of our exports to China anyway?
Exactly. So our conundrum isn't that the US, that Trump is going to impose tariffs on us. Our conundrum is that the US is going to tell us that you can't sell shit to China.
That'll be crazy.
Because we're not selling that much shit to US anyways. We buy more of US stuff than we sell it to them.
That'll hit us badly then.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Shit.
That's what it
Yes,
is.
you will. You like that?
No.
Have a shot.
A shot of reality.
Yeah.
Double. Make it a double.
Make it a double. You need it.
I mean, I remember when ScoMo was in and he was really bastardizing China, and it was worst relations ever. And I remember that was bad because it was we weren't selling anything. It was I remember that thing where it was lobsters are sitting in the lobster crates in fucking Tasmania. What do you think about that? Who's going to eat it? Australians? Pff, doubt it. Don't think so. And frankly,
That was awesome. That's the thing that you remember of it all. Didn't remember the fires.
No, I
Nothing
remember-
like that. You're sitting there. This Prime Minister does not have this nation's interests at heart. Looking at lobsters in a crate. Shame. Shame. Get that photo of him sitting in Hawaii out of the way. That should be the front page, right there.
The fires weren't started by China, dude. I'm talking about China.
I know, but to this day, you're sitting there. He really was a bastard, Scott Morrison.
It is the main thing. All
The
those
lobsters.
At
Going
least
to
give
waste.
me one. Give us some at
They're
least.
just sitting in the crate.
That's all right. They're just sitting there.
Actually, I have a question. When
You
China,
remember that?
Oh, I remember.
Alright.
It
when
was a
China
dark
wasn't
day.
buying the lobsters, why weren't we getting cheap lobsters?
Yeah, because all these companies want to make their bloody money. You know, they won't sell them cheap.
They're like, I guess we'll sell them. Because lobsters can live forever. So
Can
they'll just
they?
be like, all right, you're
wait.
at ease lobsters for the next 5 years.
Probably. They
Yeah.
probably
They'll
did
just
that.
get bigger and better.
Can you imagine if they're just what to do? well, back in the ocean with you little fellas, got lucky this time. And we're just like, I'm sick of Maccas.
You lobster, oh fish.
$100 Maccas. I'd buy that shit.
Oh, me too. I would love to buy a fancy Mac. Isn't that a thing? Can't you buy really expensive Maccas?
Not really. I don't think so. Maybe
I thought that there's a really fancy McDonald's restaurant that you can go to.
Maybe there's one.
Fries, $1,000.
I doubt it, dude. It's you know what it is. People, fucking annoying YouTubers, are like, I made the most expensive McDonald's Big Mac. It's like, of course, the patented edible gold, and yep, tastes the same, but it's $200.
Yeah.
And it's never even $200.
It's always like
the edible gold was $50 extra.
It's so edible gold must be the dumbest thing ever made. No taste, just wank and expense. Edible gold. Like that's an affluence.
What are you, a Persian?
Dude, you know what's worse? You know what's worse than edible gold?
What?
Edible silver.
Is that a thing?
Dude,
Is that a thing?
you're not even flexing,
That's a thing?
right? Yeah, that's a thing.
lame flex. What, the Kramer burger?
They have it in
edible?
They have it in Pakistan.
How's it edible?
A lot.
That's a good question.
It can't be gold.
It must be. Is it real gold?
Yeah, it is.
How's it edible? It's not good for you.
Well, I mean, look, I think in certain quantities, I guess it's fine.
Edible.
It's literally gold.
Now, Ali, onto the important matters.
Edible gold.
I rang up Ali, and I can't really remember why I did. The point is, we got off topic extremely quickly because he was regaling me stories of his housemates in Malaysia.
Okay.
That was the funniest thing I've heard in a long time.
Okay.
I was just
you
like,
explain yourself, young.
Was this the?
well, are we going to talk? Can we talk about Elon Musk before that?
Yeah. Come on.
Ah.
Come on.
Haven't we talked about him
Okay,
enough?
fine.
I hate him so much now.
Okay, fine. We'll talk about this and then we'll quickly go to Elon Musk. This all came from I was watching a Dave Chappelle stand up and he was saying back in the day in Africa, there'd be one guy in a village that they would tell all the stories to, and it was that person's responsibility to educate the next generation about all the history. And I was just thinking, like Jordan was saying, I was like, dude, that's a shit system. Why are you trusting one man with all the stories? Yeah. Don't you think he's going to start making stuff up after a while?
Perfectly. All of them. There is no change in that story over the generations.
And I was just saying, I know this sounds really bad, and which shouldn't probably, but I was saying, dude, writing it down is a way superior method. Anyway, so we started off with that.
It's honestly not even a dig at Africans, because there was African tribes that had written systems. Yeah. It's just you're just sitting there glorifying that, being like, we should go back to that.
Who was
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think archives and records is, and you know what else I think might be a little bit better than that? A cloud. Yeah, like the Apple Cloud might beat that out as a recording system. But
and dude, this guy, whoever this guy's responsibility is to remember all the stories. I'm sure, when he's in his 20s and 30s, he's pretty good at it. He's an efficient system, and but by the time he gets to 60s and 70s, dude, don't trust him anymore.
Dementia's involved.
What are you saying? That's when you start hearing all these weird stories of sea monsters as it happened historically.
And also, let's just premise this. I remember Ali talking about this in Adelaide, and I was laughing my ass off at it as well, because you have to understand, look, in third world countries, to this day, it's still, for the poor class, kind of like living in the Middle Ages.
Right.
You don't really have much access to education and all this. So you get a peek into what life would have been like before all of that. And I can tell you, it's hilarious. It's really funny.
But Malaysia's doing all right.
No, I'm not. But they weren't Malaysian. I'm with housemates, and some of them are from Pakistan. And we had a couple of black guys as well.
Right.
So what I realized at some point, so I'm one of those guys, and this is a bad habit of mine. Whenever someone brings up something, they'll say a fact, I'd be like, well, let's Google it. Let's see if it's even true. Because people always come up with this bullshit stuff. Some guy once was I was like, hey man, you've got a lot of gray hair for someone in their 30s. He's like, yes, because I get a lot of flu. And I was like, what? and he's like, yes, that's what causes it. I was like,
how
what
awesome
do you
is
mean?
that? Isn't that incredible?
I was like, what do you mean that's what causes
it's
it?
old wives' tale shit.
Yeah, it's all old wives' tales.
But everything they think is old wives' tales. You have to understand that. People in the Middle Ages, everything they thought was complete bullshit.
Yeah.
And so
think about that. Like everyone, it's just like the priest class, the kings, peasants, everyone. Everyone's just feeding each other bullshit.
Yeah.
No wonder society doesn't advance. This is nothing true just ever being said. And it seems to be perfectly acceptable. This is the thing that Ali's really pointing out in these stories. It seems to be fine that you are clearly lying in a story. And you're
Dude, it's the Yilmaz effect.
But this isn't even, this isn't, so for this sort of stuff, I go like, well, let's Google it right now.
Yeah.
To me, it seems implausible. I don't think there's a connection between getting the flu and getting gray hair. But luckily, we live in a world where we can actually find out. Amazing. In the Middle Ages, we couldn't. I just had to trust you.
Yeah.
So, and you look it up and you show them, it's like, there's no, link. And they go like, well, I believe what I believe. Anyway, so what I realized was hanging out with these guys. So every day, this is what they love talking. Like this is where you understand like the oral traditions and stuff come from. Like every day after whatever they had to do, which was like pretend to go to uni and not really go to, everyone just sat down around daytime and they just started talking. And pretty soon I realized that this whole talking, this entire conversation, nothing has to be true. Because one guy would say, I come from the village of so-and-so. And over there, we have a big bridge. It is a giant bridge. And everyone's listening. I was like, okay. And this bridge opens from the middle to get the boat to come through. And I was okay. And he's like, how do you open the bridge? You have a 10-foot key that you have to bring. You put this 10-foot key into the bridge and you open. And did you know, till today, the West is still trying to figure out how does this key work?
That's one of Trump's things. Like, we need to find this key.
And the problem is that if you say, hey, dude, your village is in a mythical place. We can look up this bridge and see how it works. Everyone gets upset because someone will say, I saw the bridge too. Be quiet. Let him talk. And so you're like,
it's kind of romantic, though. I'm the kind of person that would be like, let him speak too. Like, I like those romantic stuff.
Why?
Because, like, nothing is mysterious this day and age anymore. And if someone goes, I have a story nobody else knows, it's like, that's so rare. I want to hear it.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's let the man talk.
Yeah, it's kind of sweet.
Do we care about facts at all?
No, I mean,
evidently not.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Because I end up like, I remember one time getting up after 5 hours of listening to these guys, whole variations of different kinds of bullshit stories that all of them are bullshit. And I go like, dude, this was just a fiction writing class. Like, I haven't learned anything here. These guys spend their entire life just making stuff up. That's their favorite thing to do in the world. They all sit together. No one cares about facts, and they just make shit up as if it was
all day, every day. And I swear to God, that must have been what it was like
in the
before
Middle
schools.
Ages.
Yeah. That must have been it. That's what you sat around and did. But what still intrigues me to this day is why? Why is that the fun thing to do? To sit there and just exaggerate and make stuff up? I would like to know the anthropological answer for that.
I think,
go on.
I think it's because, like when you don't have like Netflix and like PlayStation 5, that's the closest you have to entertainment.
Yeah.
But dude, these guys...
But they're also so boring, the stories. And so obviously untrue.
You, maybe. I was like, I'm still thinking about this key. It's such a cool idea. Giant key.
But you know what's so funny about these stories? Yes, it's a fiction writing class, but without any of the structure that you would learn in a fiction writing class. Like, there's no beginning, there's no character arc, there's no development. This is the story. I know of the greatest bridge in the world. It is a very long key. The end.
But dude, we do it.
But then the other guys build on it. They were like, oh, I have seen that key. But did you know that the original key was from the king of Bengal of those days? And he says, so there's no key. So obviously the ownership wasn't with the king of Bengal. But the third guy's like, yes, I have heard about this as well.
What?
They're all just building on a narrative.
But they're in school.
But dude,
that's the best part.
Dude, we do it. The Lithgow Panther.
Yeah,
that's no. They're not even in school, dude. Okay, I'm not even kidding. This is true. So the guy who's telling you this story about the big key, he is doing an MBA in Malaysia. But what his actual MBA is that so he's from an ethnic community in Pakistan which are known as Sindhis, right? And they are really like old school, like in the sense that they have these different last names, and those last names mean a lot. They're like lords and not so lords. So this other guy who's also his friend, who is lesser in the surnames or like a lesser caste or whatever it is, I'm not too sure about it, does all of his work for him. So he just sits there every day, makes up stories while he's got a lesser Sindhi who does all of his assignments for him.
Dang.
And that's the MBA guy.
You know what's nice though? It's just nice.
And he doesn't need to work. His dad, his family owns large swaths of land.
He's bored, dude. He's bored. He doesn't need to.
And they farm chilies. That's what they do.
Dang.
Chilies, red chilies.
That's mad.
And they have huge swaths of land. So all he has to do is
chili peppers.
get an yeah.
Go on.
If you went to his dad and said
They
that,
got the name from us.
if you went to his dad and you told his dad that, like, you know, your son doesn't actually study. Like, he's got like this other guy who just bullies to do all of his assignments, and the dad would be like, he has found a way. And you're like, what do you mean? He's like, none of them have to do anything. They just have to come back and sit there and do exactly what they're doing, which is
You tell him dad that, he'll
bullshit.
be like, sit down, sit down.
Yeah.
Did you know that chili was given to me by a wizard?
But don't you think, I love that shit.
Important.
I love that shit.
What?
Like, it's just nice to have people making things up that don't concern, like, windmills and wind turbines and global warming, like dangerous myths. Like, there's nothing dangerous about saying there's a giant key. I kind of like it. It's like sweet. It's just when people are just like, global warming's a myth. It's like, that's a very hectic thing to propagate. That's very scary.
Let me tell you a story.
You know,
It's
you know
called
what I mean?
cheaper power.
Yeah, like it's like Ben Shapiro's making scarier myths up than fucking those
That's a
guys.
really good, incisive observation, miss.
Don't you-
Damn.
don't you
That's
reckon?
kind of true.
It's true.
It's
like,
true.
Yeah, but then this, you know, this also leads to like, I have read that if someone says so and so, they must be executed.
it's a rich tapestry of fun. It's a rich tapestry. But like, there are elements. I don't know if it's the same thing, but there are a lot of Croatians I know that waffle on, and they're not making up crazy stories, but like they are.
No, but they're just, their stories are, did you know in the war
Yeah.
I killed 30 Serbs? And the reality is they killed 28 Serbs.
Yeah, exactly. Just like Tito was very bad. It's more political based, but like, yeah, those old school.
But then the other one that he said that was incredible. It was so good. He goes, there was another one that he was talking to in Pakistan that said, one time I was in the shower, I turn it on, and fire comes out.
Yeah, this is also true. And he's like,
Is that possible if there's a gas leak? Maybe. It could have happened, right?
no. He says it's a ghost because what he says is, I get in underneath
it's on
the
gas,
shower
you have to understand.
and I open it and it is fire. Like, and then he explains it this way. He's like, you know, like fireworks, fire raining down. I move back, and as soon as I move back, it goes off. I come back again, fire again.
You know what I see that as though? I see it as like a romantic, sweet thing. Like, to me, it's just like very sweet. But like, if I did hear that, I would be like, "What the hell are you? That's not true. Let's look about this at every. There's no way that happened." But like,
Yeah, this is what they always say. You say that. It's like, dude, I don't believe you. What's the evidence? And he goes like, listen, ask anyone over here. No, he says,
how would they know?
No. He doesn't say it. He's like, am I a trustable man? And they all go,
No.
yes, I have never heard you speak a lie. And then
It is
you're
very
the
old
asshole.
world- It's a very old world thing. It is a very old world thing. It's like, well, he said that he doesn't lie, so it's fair, therefore it must be true. Like,
So you're the asshole for questioning it.
yeah.
Because everyone.
But you have to remember, I'm the person that when we were all at Jordan's house without Jordan for some reason, Jordan wasn't in the country.
Yeah, I can't
think.
remember why. Yeah.
You weren't there, but there was like 10 of us in Jordan's house after a funeral or something, and then like one of our mates was just like, "Flat Earth, ever heard of that?" And like a few people got up and were like, "That's it." I was just like, "Let him speak." You know, so I'm not one of these people that's just like,
Well, you always want to hear that, obviously. I want to hear the flat earth theory.
it
Of
was
course.
just, but it's the same thing. It's just like fire rain down. It's like, look,
But
go
the weird
on.
dynamic in that is the fact that everyone sits there and says, how dare you question this man's credibility, Ali? I will say goodbye. So it's not him leaving on his own accord. He's getting kicked out. That's the difference.
It's just like...
It's like if you said to Gabe when that happened,
Yeah.
Jed, you must leave.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
must leave. I have never heard Torps, this man that has taken a lot of mushrooms, and let's be honest, he invented his own drug called Tripstasy. This man does tell no lies. No lies, sir.
Yeah, that's true. That is next level. I mean,
It's next level.
it's-
And then wasn't there another one where he said, in my village, it is famous for having a lot of gnomes. and it was so good because, look, I can imagine that working in the Middle Ages because no one ever left their village. And so
Yeah.
you could say that there was dwarfs in that one and there's goblins over in that cave and everyone would think, well, I've never left, so maybe.
Yeah.
You know? But now you have cars. You could go on Google Satellite and see
Drones.
where the gnomes are. It's so flawed.
Yeah, it's very like what's the word? Like it's the use by date is expired on that. It's just like I don't know. It's like that's gone. But
It's
it is
a
romantic.
big call, and also just to say, my town is very famous for having gnomes. Not I could even buy this. I saw a gnome once. You don't believe me? I saw a gnome. I could believe that.
Yeah.
But just
Dude, not just
you go to
gnome.
my bar, and there will be a gnome behind. But the bartender, he has a little stoop so he can get the beers.
He's
Dude,
just
not
talking about
just
midgets.
that. Gnomes. He also claimed that there is a Indus mermaid. Okay, this is what happened. He claims that there is a mermaid that lives in the Indus River, which is the Indus River is kind of neighboring where he's originally from. Now, keep in mind that not only are there no unexplored areas of the Indus, because of climate change, it's barren dried. So even if there was a mermaid, she'd be like this, and you could see her. But he says no, there has and then he goes on to explain this mermaid. And guess what the other guys say? No one says like, "Are you sure about?" They go like, "Do you think they marry?"
Oh my god.
Because they're saying, and this Indus mermaid in this shitty, brown, muddy river is the most beautiful woman on earth.
Dude, it's very romantic. But I'm realizing what it is. It's like if you think about it, like the Gaelic thing was like leprechauns, and it's basically what it is like most of the modern worlds come out of this like small village Lord of the Rings style thing of like in that village there's this thing, and then in this village there's that thing, and people believe it. It's like because they've all got more affluent. But I think if your society is like very poor, then like it's like still believable that it's like in Karachi there's a big man. And he gives you wads of meat. But if you don't eat, he gives you 3. But if you don't eat 3, he gets very upset and he'll kill your whole family. It's like, yes, I've also heard it. You know what I mean? Like, it's
I
like,
will have to remember this now.
I think it is just this sort of
Dude,
like
I honestly
can't
think
afford the internet.
I think
you know?
part of it
No, they
is
can. The internet's there.
Oh, okay.
I think part of it, because I thought heaps about it. Part of it is that these guys are farmers. So
Yeah.
when you put like you put in like your seeds or whatever, you got a lot of time to kill before the thing is ready. The second thing is, and I think Jordan, I remember you telling me a lot about this. But even if you look at like the Indian map, right, and you look at areas that produce wheat, and you look at areas that produce rice, you notice that areas that produce rice are like they have a much better work ethic, whereas areas that produce wheat
Just wait.
Yeah, do you know, Jordan, I think you explained to me, tell me why that is. Because these guys are wheat producers, a lot of them, historically, as opposed to rice. And I've noticed that rice producers are actually a lot better.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because to sow a wheat field takes, I can't remember how many hours, but it's something along the lines of 100 hours to sow a field properly, to dig it all out, to put it all in, to sow it up,
Right.
and then you wait for rain.
Right.
And that's how you grow wheat. When you're growing rice, it is way more labor intensive.
Right, yeah.
And the system is usually set up in Asia because it's so labor intensive and they need a constant supply of rice, that the system there was nowhere near as exploitative as it was, say, in feudal systems where you're growing wheat, because in those feudal systems where you grow wheat, it either works or it doesn't.
Right.
And so the guy just comes in and takes his share of the wheat and that works, right? But in Asian societies, you had to make a system that incentivized rice farmers to grow rice, which means that you are incentivizing them with the fact that if you grow rice, you can become rich. You can't become rich in a feudal system from growing
Right.
wheat. That's impossible.
Really? Okay.
Well, it's just because where's the incentive for the king
Yeah.
to give any more money to them. It's just like, fuck off. If there's like a bad season, I don't get anything. If there's a good season, I get it. But there, to keep everyone fed, you needed to produce more rice.
Right.
And if you look at country, well, whatever, even if that place is not producing wheat anymore, is not producing rice anymore, but if you look at like the historic rice pockets versus the historic wheat pockets, you will notice that the rice pockets have a much better GDP per capita in today's world.
No, because that work ethic transferred over. So all the people that were rice farmers, they still have that work ethic now. It's just cultural. That's why a lot of Asian countries are workhorses.
Right.
It's exactly because of that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's
and
an interesting.
they're extremely entrepreneurial and enterprising people because of that.
Ah, that's interesting.
It's interesting because I hadn't thought about it until Jordan told me this, but I do look at like the map and you look at like wheat areas, and there is definitely a
Culturally.
discrepancy in like how much money they earn now.
Like rice is making more.
Which is why, like, if you look at India,
And also
the
a lot
poorest
of
part of
personal
India,
power. That's the other thing as well.
Right.
Like there is a culture in these places where life is in your hands. You make your life as a result of your labor and your effort. That's kind of just ingrained into Asian society.
Right.
When you go to the Western shit like that, they're very privy to the whole thing of, my life sucks because of society. It's society's fault that life sucks. And you go back and you look at the expressions that people had during wheat societies, and it was always something like, it's in God's hands. Because there's no incentive to do it. So we've been bred with this thing of, if there's wheat, good harvest or not, that's God's problem. That's not mine. Whereas everything, when you listen to the expressions in Asian societies, which I forget, but they're all just about the fact that, it's always this. It's just like, a man should wake up at dawn and go to bed at dusk.
Damn.
And in the meantime, he should farm rice.
Wow.
Like, that's all they're talking about,
Right.
Because it's all just about, you can actually make something of yourself.
Huh. And the people that are making wheat can just sit around being like, the reason we grow wheat is the wheat gnome.
Yeah.
they can afford to. They have the time to do it.
You know the reason the wheat is not growing at the moment is because I heard Sanjeev, he swore at the soil once. He swore, it is true. It is true he did this. And so now the soil is very angry.
Sanjeev, you do this.
Sanjeev, this is your fault. Maybe you should apologize. Yeah. No, because I heard Vishnu. Vishnu said to the soil, he said something far worse, and I can't even repeat it because I'm a religious man. But he said something worse to the soil, so it's
okay, let's
Holy shit, that's so glad.
let's switch some gears. We've got a couple of quick ones. First, let's talk about Elon Musk's supposed potential Nazi salute.
Yeah,
what is your opinion?
I swear I'm not. I just really have to piss.
All right, Jordan, what do you think? Was it a Nazi salute or was it his tisms?
No, it's just he is the cringiest man on earth, and he should never, ever, ever be on stage.
But he, look, I could have agreed to that, but he did, he has been supporting a few of German neo-Nazi parties lately.
Yeah, look, I honestly think that that's really immaterial to the fact that I don't think that he was doing the Nazi salute there. I think that he is just not very spatially conscious. Let's put it this way. I think that a dancer has more control over their body than Elon Musk. Because you just saw him doing you can see what's happening in his head when he's getting up on stage, because it reminds me of when you're watching a stand-up comedian that's fresh and hasn't been doing it very often, and you can tell that they're thinking about everything before they say and do it, like every movement and action. And I was exactly the same when I started out. But the thing is, when you're a 50-year-old man and you've done enough stock reports to your shareholders, you should not be that bad at being on stage. It is because that man is highly autistic, and he is clearly thinking about every move before he does it, and so everything comes off extremely awkward, and I can't watch it. I cannot watch. Even when he walks on stage, I can't watch it. And also him correcting himself in real time while he's speaking. Stop doing that. Just deal with you screwing up a couple of words. Don't sit there and say, you know how some elections are important and others are not important, less important. What are you doing?
That's hilarious. Musky Musk. I reckon,
I honestly feel the same thing about Gina Reinhardt. I really wish that I could get them to pay me a ridiculous amount of money to just teach them how to be a little bit less cringy on stage.
Yeah, she is strange too. Like the way she's like, you pointed it out on your stream where it's just like, I speak like First Fleet English Australian. It's just like, talk about like a nepotistic sort of nepotism, like regal. It's just so on point for that kind of person.
Do you think there's no possibility that Elon was actually doing a Nazi salute?
No, there's a possibility.
There's a possibility, but I just don't think that's the case.
When I first saw it, I was like, how could it not be? But then I'm like, the guy is antisocial to the max and like heavily autistic. I don't think he's that dumb. I don't think that's what it was, but like, of course there's a possibility. Like, dude, of course. Like, and like, you know, he is entertaining a lot of like ultra right conspiratorial stuff. Like
that's what I'm saying, because like he is
entertaining.
You know what I honestly think he was doing? I thought he was trying to do the black guy thing, but the thing is, black guys have charisma and they're good with their body, and so they'll do things like
I think
like that.
No, they do this. They do the peace sign.
Exactly.
They don't go like.
But he is so uncoordinated that he was just like, move. "You're my brothers."
I think that's what happened, but like, you know, look. I put it this way: if it wasn't that, it's still very troubling. It's like, what's wrong with you? To like, you're so awkward and weird. Like, what the hell, dude? And like, also, why is he speaking? Is he like, why is he constantly? Is he the president? I feel like he's doing more than Trump. Like, why is he constantly speaking at these events?
I know.
He wasn't elected.
And can you stop?
He wasn't elected.
Can you not speak? Is that possible? How are you getting juiced out of this? Surely you're getting tooled massively online. You can't be that insulated from it.
He is so cringe. Even when, like, if you watch the inauguration, at one point Trump goes, "And we will put the American flag on Mars." And you just see Elon in the background spazzing out, just going,
he's so...
spazzing out.
It's a Redditor with billions of dollars. And you know what else as well? This is incredible.
So rich.
How cool is this?
Yeah.
I think that the reason that Elon Musk's visage online has changed so dramatically. Look, I was somebody that, I've talked about this before, but I was someone that when he was a mysterious Forbes-like figure that was written up, I could tolerate it, and, you know, I'd be, like, I am quite charitable with a lot of people that just don't share my politics. I just think you're a height of arrogant if you say, they're right wing, whatever that means. They suck. I always looked at it as, look, he's done a net benefit with... I've given my spiel about it before, right? But the thing is, as soon as I started seeing him on stage, I'm sorry, it's just wiped it out.
And
he's so lame.
I don't want to...
Maybe no, that's the whole feeling. You can't... It is. I've never really experienced cringe like that before, as in a bodily effect. Surely you're not getting this?
No, dude, I am getting it, but I just want to remind, I mean, a lot of you won't believe me, but if there's a massive fan, can you go back and find out? Around 2017, 2018, I was on everyone's ass that Elon Musk is a Batman villain. He's a hero right now, because at the time he was like, you know, the greatest guy. You know, he came up with like electric cars, was doing so much for climate change. He was really lefty at the time. And I was like, just stop pinpointing dumb things that he does, because he will switch to being a villain very soon.
Do you think he was pushed into it?
Yeah, dude. I think everyone was. Like, Joe Rogan was also... All of these guys were Democrats at one point.
Yeah.
Like, that's... But I guess it would have happened anyways. They were just going with the tide. But you could,
I don't think
see...
so. I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I honestly think that if you gave them more breathing space and didn't demonize and ostracize them, because you have to understand, this is a very good insight with tech billionaires that I was hearing. I told you about this, Ali. Tech billionaires, obviously, were nerd outcasts when they were kids. It's kind of the same story as a school shooter, really, but they were obvious. Look at him. He was clearly a loser and an incel. And he was clearly very smart. I really hate it when people say that he's not. He's obviously a genius. He really is. But, you know, just because you're a genius doesn't mean that you're a genius in everything. No. But he's clearly a great engineer, right? And so, anyway, this is something that apparently is very common when it comes to all of these tech types in Silicon Valley. they, because they're massive nerd losers, are intelligent, have no social skills, are rejected by their classmates, and as a result of that, they use their incredible brain power to think, if I just keep building things and I build something impressive enough, at some point in my life, I'm going to get laid, right? That's what they keep doing. And so they keep building and they keep getting more and more dense in their head and they keep becoming weirder and weirder, but they are making more and more valuable things. So people have to start kowtowing to them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they don't know how to relate to anyone. They are extremely dense in their head with this constant... The feeling of any villain ever. If you read any character arc story about any villain, it's always someone who was, at the beginning, usually justifiably wronged, and then they're going to show everyone, and they're going to take it out on the world.
Yeah, right.
And so, as Ali was saying, yeah, it's very super villainy behavior. And so apparently, every time you do meet one of these tech billionaire types, they're terrifying. They're really dark people.
Actually, Jordan, why don't you tell the audience the story that you told me about Zingerberger?
What?
Dude, okay. So...
Zuckerberg, I meant.
Oh,
I was going back to... I literally thought
you were going to be like, it's 11 herbs and spices. People thought it was 10. Each. I've got proof it's 11.
Yeah. I was going back to my old mentor from my pickup days. Yeah. And so I was looking at this guy that I used to watch.
Talk about cringe.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. But look, this is the whole thing. I will never shit on a guy for doing that because it's always just this thing of like, look, you can either read about it and get some social skills, which you seriously fucking need. I'm sorry, when you're a 17-year-old boy.
Sure.
There's like 2 17-year-old boys that are sick and they're usually just the captain of the football team and every one of the other ones suck. And, by the way, when time marches on, that 17-year-old boy that was mad with chicks in high school usually is a loser in their 30s because they kind of just max out and peak at 17.
No, he's right, I guess. It's just brutal.
Don't you think?
Yeah,
and so you've really got 2 options. You can sit there and just go through your 20s just getting heaps and heaps of rejections until you hit about 25 and you become a fully qualified tradie and it kind of just evens out anyway. Or you can cut a couple of years and just learn that if you walk up and you're like, excuse me, I need a female opinion on things. Like, it's just, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, my point is, I was looking at it because he's now he's really just kind of just moves on in the self-development thing. Like when he's in his 30s and so he's teaching a bunch of horny teenagers just like, here's how you pick up. And then he hits his 40s and then he's like, here's how you do well in business. So now he's into that. So I'm watching him again, right? Anyway, I'm watching him. He's talking about the fact that none other than Mark Zuckerberg was one of his clients. And you know what he said about him?
That he was fucked?
Yeah, he was saying, look, a lot of my job is obviously just thinking about social interactions because at the end of the day, really, that's what like pickup is. It's just like being social, really. It's just like not being a freak, right? So anyway, a lot of the time he's seen a lot of weird behavior because like especially when you're out in clubs constantly, you're just going to see absolute psychos of every description, right? Like you're just going to see, because usually people in clubs are quite sad, jaded people, you know? And so like he's seen a lot of freaks and so he's quite good at just giving people their space and whatever, you know? Let them be them, they're kind of on their own path kind of. He's got that attitude to life. He was saying when it came to Zuckerberg, he was like, I hate this man. And it's really rare for me to hate someone.
Shit.
And I can't remember the last person that I hate. It's a weird feeling to me these days to sit there and visibly be freaked out by someone.
Yeah.
And he was like, what the hell is this? And anyway, so he goes, I hear you're the one that's good at picking up girls. Give me some girls.
Right.
And so he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So he walks over to some groups and says like, hey, everyone, this is Mark Zuckerberg. He's the Facebook guy. And everyone's like, yay. And then he's just like, yeah, I'm the Facebook guy. Facebook guy. Freaks everyone out everywhere that he goes.
Yeah.
And so he's like, can't really do anything. And so he just has this massive tantrum in the club saying, you're a fake, you're a fraud, you didn't get me anything, this is all your fault, you built me up again. And so he's going, okay, I'm just going to go now, and then leaves. And then he turns around while he's talking to a group of people, and then he just opens up the group, walks into the center of it, and then just goes, I fly everywhere in a private jet. And then ran back to his really expensive VIP booth and then sat there drinking, like, I don't know, like Grey Goose or whatever, going, just staring at him the whole night. And he was saying he was the most... It's so obvious anytime you ever see him in a Senate hearing or anything. He was the most socially awkward man
I know.
ever.
I know.
It was uncannily bad. But he was also saying that he has this very dark energy about him.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, and not only that...
I can see that when you see him talk.
I think it's on record that he started Facebook to pick up chicks too.
For sure.
Because there's email communications with him from early days when it was still Harvard, whatever. And some guy was like emailing him saying like, dude, how do you have like all of these girls' like details? And he's like, oh, because they're on whatever the Facebook, and they're stupid. They just give me all their stuff. Right. Like he was on record saying that everyone's an idiot for giving him all this stuff. And now he says like, look, I was a kid.
Yeah, sure, yeah. No, but I may have watched his entire podcast, the latest one with Joe Rogan, and
Zuckerberg.
Yeah, and he does really honestly present as like an alien trying to be a humanoid. And even with
so is Musk, don't you think?
Yeah,
Musk has that same thing. It's like greetings, Earthlings.
But Zuckerberg's even creepier because Musk kind of doesn't. He's not pretending to be anything. He's just a weirdo, and that's what he is. He's not pretending. He's just a weirdo, and that's what he is. But like Zuckerberg's trying to, I think, like present himself as not a weirdo, and it's like even with his weird little chain and like curly hair, it's like you look better, but like, dude, like, it's also even that's weird because it's like, do you ever take the chain off? Why don't you put it under your shirt? Why are you like presenting?
No, that's his new style, dude. You can't tell him. But he just changed from looking like an absolute dork to now looking like a dork that's had a makeover.
No, I know, but it's weird when someone has one look and then changes and is that person. It's like, you can like mix it up, dude. You don't have to look the same every day. It's weird.
He's like a cartoon character.
He's like a cartoon character. He's like, get my weird chain. And like it's just like, and I'm more tanned now. It's like you can be less tanned again. You don't have to. You just like you put on like a Mortal Kombat alternative costume, and like you got two costumes. Like you're so rich. Like what the fuck's wrong with you? Just like it's weird. Like he just, you know what I mean?
Totally.
He's got this new look, and it's like. I have a chain here, but I don't wear it like this at every interview and just be like, so
this is my look.
This is what's happening. You see the cool chain? It's like,
Yes.
wouldn't it sometimes accidentally be here? I don't think about this. It's like he's compartmentalizing every element of what he's presenting himself as. It's like, what is just really strange? It's just like, why? I don't understand him. He's a very strange...
They all are. They're all aliens. And
it's just fucking weird.
I remember listening to one no-name in Google. He was sort of lower down the chain, but obviously still a multi-millionaire, like they all are. And something that always stuck in my head forever was he was trying to give out relationship advice. And he said, here's the way I see it. I mean, you could go out and get another girlfriend, but that would be such a waste of time. Why don't you just figure out the problems with your current girlfriend? It's like, you're a machine.
Who said that?
It's just like, this was what happened. He's thinking about whether or not to break up with someone, and he just goes like, time error, not efficient use of time. I will stay. That's how they think.
Hey, also, for you want to clear this up. Someone says he met his girl in 2003 and got married in 2012. Why was he picking up chicks?
Oh, this was probably well before that.
Yeah, this is also like what Jordan's talking about is like 2009, 2010.
No, but he probably did it in like 2001 or 2002.
Anyways, and also like as if Mark Zuckerberg has been faithful to his wife. The man
this is what I think.
built
Honestly,
an empire to get
probably
laid
doesn't have any options. This is what I'm saying.
Jesus.
He was very rich at this point. You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine how bad you would have to be at social interaction not to get laid as a billionaire? Can you imagine?
No.
I mean, this guy hangs out with a lot of billionaires. A lot of billionaires are freaks.
Yeah.
They still get laid massively, constantly, all the time. This guy had problems talking to anyone.
I feel like
he had problems talking to the guy whose job it is to talk to weirdos.
Yeah, you know? my opinion, if I had to say, like, psychoanalyze those, the two billionaires we're talking about is like with what's his name, Musk. I think like I don't think he's like. I think he has. I think he still essentially has goodness in him, and he's not like an evil. Like he's comfortable in his weirdness, if that makes sense. He's comfortable being super weird and awkward, and he's being genuine. Whereas Zuckerberg, I feel like there's some real darkness there. I feel like there's like he actually is like there's a dark evilness there, and there's something as you can see when he speaks. It's like you're not comfortable. You don't even really know who you are. I don't think you've ever figured that out, and you've never been comfortable with who you are. And like it seems to like there's no. He doesn't know. He obviously doesn't know. He's the richest guy in the world. He should be able to. You'd think if anyone could figure that out, but he can't figure it out. And there's no money. Money can't change that. Money can't buy that. And he's just like stuck in. He's just a bit like very confused about who he is, and he's just like doesn't know how to present himself. Doesn't know a thing.
Yeah, dude, because how he's in his 40s and he's still discovering himself. He's still changing his personality.
Yeah, and it's to someone to change their person. It happens. It's like a serious personality disorder when someone changes their look and personality, like boom, really dramatically, and then they're a completely different person. It's like that's the sign of someone that doesn't have a person. They don't know who they are. They're just these jumping from one big thing to the other. It's like there's no grounding there in reality. There's no grounding to like who you are. You know what I mean? How you like look shouldn't change who you are. So I feel like there's a real darkness. He's really scary. Something scary about him, and I feel bad for him ultimately, which is a crazy thing to say. But I also think he's a massive opportunist that just like the whole thing with how he's like the thing since Trump's been gotten in and how much he's just flip flopped and be like, I've decided just by complete chance that I've listened to people and I think that freedom is really important. Sure, we're not going to fact check. It's like, yeah, I'm sure there's no coincidence with you doing that to Trump getting in and like, wanting to be chumming in, make more money. I'm sure there's none. I'm sure you just
no. It's about free speech.
It's about free
speech. It's always about free
speech.
Yeah,
and you just randomly decided to change your like massive company's like agenda overnight. You just felt like it.
There's a real irony. There's a real irony when principles. Trump comes out and says that he is, pro workers.
Yeah.
And behind him is like 80% of the world GDP, just like Google, Elon, like all the billionaires, like the olden days, they've come to bow in front of the king.
Yeah.
And these are the people that are just going to be responsible for laying off half of the world's workforce in the next 10 years.
Yeah. And I actually watched, I don't know if you guys saw this, but I watched last night, I fell asleep to Biden addressing Parliament or whatever, Congress about GP some shit visas, which apparently like Musk and stuff want to introduce. They're like, there's no one that's skilled in America to do the jobs we want, so we want to be able to hire people from overseas. And then Biden was just pointing out like, there's heaps of people that are skilled. You just want cheaper labor. And he was like, I propose that we scrap this because they just want to bring people in.
Yeah, but he should have said that before, not after.
What do you mean?
I mean, like, look, he's right, but he's also just like saying that before he's leaving. If he believed in that, he could have scrapped that. He had 4 years in office. Yeah, he had 4 years in office.
Not Biden. Sorry, Bernie.
Oh yeah, Bernie's been consistent.
Yeah, I meant Bernie. I meant Bernie. Both start with B. But like, anyway, so I like you hear that and you're like, well, when someone's just being like, I'm for America first, American workers, and they're just like, I don't want to hire Americans. I want to hire cheap labor so I can exploit them. And it's like, there's your conflation there. You know what I mean? So like, I think, believe it or not, I think there's some just a rhetoric and bullshit talking. But yeah, Zuckerberg, like, he's fascinating to me because I'm just like, you just look at him and there's a very like uneasy, scared, like, he's probably a sociopath, don't you think?
A psychopath or a sociopath? But it's a coin toss.
But do you think so? He seems like
I just think both of them are the friendlier cousin of a sociopath, really autistic.
Okay. I just get the feeling with Elon Musk, if someone was dying on the street, he'd be like, here, hold my hand. But Zuckerberg would just be like, I don't know who you are. I hope that, I hope you like free speech, and just run away.
Yeah. But I think that it would probably be that he's like, I'm dying. He's holding someone's hand. Not my wife. Not my wife, and then run away.
It's just like, I'm getting kind of not, I don't like these characters. They're bumming me out, man. It's just like,
Yeah, they are bumming
and we have
me
to
out.
constantly hear about
Look,
them.
we'll continue this conversation on the up late.
Yeah.
Just before we go, we missed out on the TikTok analysis, but you can
Oh, shit.
sign up to our
We'll do it on the
Patreon
up late?
page because we discussed that in the pre-show. And for this up late, for all of those of you who said that you loved my story, thank you very much for that. This week, I'm going to be doing an up late historical story. The thing is, I can't talk about that story on the main pod anyways because
Too
it's
red hot.
it's not red hot. It's
Yeah,
just
it is.
very controversial. It
That's
deals
red
with,
hot. That's just another phrase.
sorry, it's not even controversial. It's like both sides. Okay, so it's about like
I mean, it's very uncontroversial. Yes.
it's about like
Sign up to the update. That's the only place
it's about
I
a
can talk about.
specific portion of
You want something
Islamic
boring?
history which created some of the conflicts in the world today. So I'm going to be, because I think it's a really fun story. So I'm going to be doing that, but on the up late. If you do want to hear that story, because I'm telling you, you'll like it. It's something that you probably haven't even heard of because people are not too comfortable talking about it. Become a patron and sign up and, listen to the Up Late podcast. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next week. Adios.
Thanks for joining us.